My eldest daughter Nicola, we think she had Rett syndrome. Rett syndrome was only named in the 80s and she was born in the 70s. Nicola needed to use a wheelchair. She didn't use words to speak. She needed a lot of support. But for us as a family, she was just one of our 5 children. Sadly, Nicola died in 2003. But before she died, I learned lots from her. She had a wonderful life, and that's some of what I want to share with you.
I've been involved in Partners since 1999. I'd done the course and Lynn was our coordinator on there, and I haven't left it since really. I found it invaluable that even though I'm the youngest of 7, I learned things from other people's, Lynn's hindsight mainly, that have taught me things that my mum could never teach me and never knew about because she'd never had a child with a disability.
What I learned through Partners in Policymaking, and what a lot of the other families learn, is to use your energy well. So a lot of my energy went on being angry with people and not knowing where to direct that. And often the only people you get to meet are social workers or frontline workers, health workers, people who don't have a lot of say in things really. And you get to meet them often when you've got a need. So you're not meeting them for a comfortable chat, you're meeting them when your child's got a need for something. And it's usually quite critical.
When I had Sophie, she was born at 27 weeks, so I wasn't quite 6 months pregnant. So she was born with a disability, and the expectation was that she was never going to live, so you were going home with that thought.
At one point, Nicola needed an operation on her legs because her tendons were shortening because she used a wheelchair and she didn't move about a lot. And one of the problems was that her knees started to rub together. So I saw the solution as being she needed a little wedge made out of a sponge to sit between her knees. I've seen one somewhere. A little wedge made out of a sponge, sit between her knees, just to hold her knees apart until she had the operation. So I went into the service system to try and access this, and she was assessed over the telephone, which wasn't terribly helpful, but apparently this wedge was ordered. It arrived 3 weeks later, and it was 3'6" by 2'9". And what I did was to blame the system. So my emotion that I used was anger mainly, and I thought that everybody who worked in the system was holding things back deliberately rather than giving us what we needed as a family. And I soon learned that that's not true, but I need to teach that to the families who come on the course.
And then when they start letting you have physio and things like that, the expectation was she'd stay at home with me and she wouldn't amount to much, and that go, you know, you could have another child.
Because she needed a lot of support, and I wasn't able to do a lot of things for her, and I didn't know a lot about the service systems. It was frustrating. I liken it to the story of Alice in Wonderland. It's a bit like falling down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland, where Alice comes out of the rabbit hole and she meets the White Rabbit, and she meets these other characters, and they think they're making sense, but they're not making any sense to her. And it was a bit like that. I met all these people who thought they were saying helpful things and telling us the things that we needed to do, but I didn't understand how the system worked and what was going on. And it's the same for a lot of families.
She's the youngest of 6. And we just wanted the same for her as what they'd had. But that wasn't we were going down a special route, which was really quite lonely. And instead, when she was 10, we took a different route, which enabled me to get her back into the mainstream of life and the ordinary things.
When people come on the course, quite often, they're either bewildered, angry, frustrated, tired, because they've been trying to access systems that they don't understand without any strategies or information. And Partners in Policymaking gives them the information they need.
Well, 2002, I'd been suffered with arthritis for a long time, quite severe arthritis, and I didn't really know the field of disabilities. It's just, as Lynn says, it's fallen down the rabbit hole until that actually happens to you, and I think in life it completely changes. So on the course, it's just having that network of people there. You know, you've got any problems or issues, and you're still learning every day. It's still a learning curve, but it gives you the knowledge to go on from.
The way that we teach on Partners is a mixture of information and inspiration. So you get the information about what the legislation is about people working, where it affects your benefits, all those sort of things. But you'll get somebody coming telling the story about their work and how important it is to them. So each of the topics is a mixture of information and inspiration, and that's really important.
So it's a fantastic course that I think everyone, even people non-disabilities, need to go on, because it's just such a learning curve. It opens up, like in friends, I've got friends who've got no disabilities, but I'm teaching them stuff overnight, you know, just in general conversation, because it's something you are passionate about. It's something you are passionate about what you do, and I think people, well, with all disabilities, it is just a learning curve all the time, and the people you get, the knowledge you get off people is unbelievable, and the speakers you see from all over the world and within our own country, it's a privilege to be able to do that. So I think it's fantastic.
One of the sessions we teach is around postural care, about protecting body shapes. And it's absolutely incredible the difference that makes. We've got somebody who comes along and shows slides of children who've been left sitting in one position for a long time. And we know for a fact that we've changed several children's lives. There's a young woman called Jess who was about to have an operation for her scoliosis, and she hasn't had that operation. Her spine moved back several centimetres in a matter of months just because she had the correct equipment. We look at facilitated communication for people who don't use words to speak. We look at inclusive education. We look at getting a job.
One of the sessions is on person-centred planning, and that's what really floated my boat, really. I knew at that time there were certain things going on in my life that I thought, if something happened to me, what had happened to the children? Not just Sophie, to all of them, but predominantly Sophie as well.
I'm 71, and Carol's, you know, been with me all the time, and I haven't been able to do things when I wanted to do myself anyway, because I was worrying about Carol and I would never leave her.
So that really got into me. I needed to know what was going to happen if I was no longer here. And I think most parents have that of all the children, not just someone with a special need.
She was always stuck in the house with me, looking after me and me looking after her.
I never had no friends. I never really went out anywhere of a night or of a day. From noon to next morning, I was stuck in the house 24/7.
Because there's this window of personalisation at this particular time, we've kind of done a hybrid of all the person-centred planning tools, especially the personal futures planning, and we've put them together and created a toolkit, and now we're doing something called pass it on planning, because it really belongs with families.
Quite often the families, when you have a disabled child, you stop dreaming about things. You just sort of are glad if you've got through the day, or somebody's returned a letter or returned a phone call. You stop sort of the big dreaming stuff, and it's really important that we should all have dreams and aspirations.
So it's for families, by families, and now that they can be given the confidence and training to know they can do it themselves.
I go to Merseyside Partners in Policymaking. I've been going there since 2008. And I've enjoyed going there because it gave me a new lease of life, which I never had before.
And she's got to do quite a lot of things. She's learned an awful lot of things. She's got a little job out of it. And she's meeting so many people and doing so many things which she thought she'd never be able to do.
So we teach the families to think big again and look at what's really possible and what's positive about life.
If you're on there and they learn about it, they'll go on and pass it to somebody else, another mum, another dad along the road, a neighbour even. It's that basic, and that you can learn from that and then go on and tell somebody else. And that's what kind of done it for me. It's that knowing that you're not going to do any harm and that you're actually changing somebody's life for the better. You're sharing the things that you found out, so they don't have to go through it all themselves.
There was a big thing was for my son Anthony, and that was when we done the rites of passage. I was horrified because he wasn't doing any of them things, and his 2 younger brothers were doing all of them.
There's an assumption that the people who work in social services or health are there to solve all our problems. So you go along and mainly talk about what's wrong. And you go to the social worker or the health worker with the difficulties. And quite often they will talk to you about the difficulties. So quite often all we hear is what's wrong with your child, and all we talk about is what's wrong with our child. And we turn that right on its head.
His brothers were getting the bus to school with the friends, and they'd get the bus home with the friends. Anthony wasn't, he was getting shipped out to the special school. And so one of the big things that come from partners was that Anthony got his own front door key for the first time.
Instead of describing our child by the labels, and I hear parents saying, I've got a Down syndrome, or I've got an autistic child. And Down syndrome might be part of who that child is, but it doesn't define them. So we teach people about how to use language in a different way, in a very powerful way. So we describe our children by their gifts and their talents, as well as saying what support they might need. And that's a huge change, a huge shift.
And then we started getting the bus to school with him, and he got his own bus pass, and it just went on. He actually now has started supported employment, which if I hadn't done partners, I wouldn't.
So if you're a social worker and you've got a family member coming to you with some solutions, so for example, with Nicola, we try to figure out things that she might do in her leisure time. Now, Nicola didn't use words to speak, she didn't move without assistance, she needed to use a wheelchair. So it was really difficult to think about what she might do and how she might fit in. But when I had some people help me plan and think about it in a different way, what we came up with was what Nicola was really, really good at, which I'm not really good at, and I'm trying really hard to be good at, is sitting still. So he was really good at sitting still. So we decided to use that. That was one of her gifts. And Nicola went to college for a couple of years, and she was a model in the life drawing class. And she also went into the beauty therapy class. She loved having massages and her hair done. So she was a model in that class as well. So it's about turning things on the head and thinking about what will work rather than what the problems are.
Another positive step forward, which is involving like doing training like this on a day, and like doing, you know, talking about other places, you know, hospitals and things like that, and other disabilities, meeting other people with disabilities and learning, you know, and I feel my confidence is growing a lot more.
And I just do a lot of things now, which I never did before. And I'm just so grateful for my Merseyside partners. And I think, as my mum said before, I think she said that I've come on more, which I have, and I speak out now, and I say a lot of stuff, which I never used to. I used to be a very, very quiet person, and I never ever spoke to anyone. But now I've got that many mates now. I don't know which one to go out with.
So supporting people properly is really important. I've mentioned supported employment. When I talk about supported employment or supporting education or anything else, it just means figuring out for that individual. So in the past, we used to think about what this group of people might need. And now we've moved on to think about what individuals might need.
I mean, for me, it's been quite, you know, a big jump, you know, I mean, because I mean, it's taken me time to get used to it. But I mean, like I have a learning disability, and unfortunately for me, things like, you know, Colin's just mentioned, it can be quite a way forward for me, because they never had nothing like this many, many years ago. And I keep on thinking how lucky we are, because with everybody cutting costs and things like that, they could very well have done the same to us.
When I first joined Merseyside Partners, I got a card, a bank card, which I've never ever had in my life. And I went to a bank and got some money out. In my first time, I went to the bank and I got money out of the bank. It's the first time ever in my life I've gone to the bank.
So getting the right support is crucial. But it also saves a lot of money for the service system if you're not asking for things you don't really need. You know, I don't know, at one point we ended up with a garage full of incontinence pads. with 4 different bath aids to help Nicola get in and out the bath. None of them worked. With 4 wheelchairs, none of them were the correct wheelchairs. So after going through partners, it helps people to figure out what they need, how to access life solutions as well as service solutions, and take from the system just what they need, not everything they can get hold of.
So Sophie actually benefited immensely from, you know, Nicola's experience. I know Nicola never got to go to mainstream anything, you know, at school or that, but Sophie attended mainstream school, even though I was told, you know, that she never would. She's gone on to do A-levels, even though she's got a developmental delay, and she's also just got a 2-1 degree at uni, which has only happened because of partners, really.
Because, I mean, I'll tell you what, I mean, you can get an awful lot out of partners and policy making.
I've gone like onto like better things in my life which I'd never had before.
And hopefully we will always still keep it up, and hopefully we'll always still keep on having partners and policy making.
I felt as though I'd been doing the wrong thing for the first 10 years of Sophie's life, and I just think this is the way forward, to teach people for what they truly need, not what's on offer. And it's just a challenge, really, so everyone becomes a citizen rather than just being manipulated and expected to toe the line.
Before I was not very happy. I was a lonely person because I never had no one to go out with. My mum looked after me, and she never really went anywhere because she was always stuck in the house with me. I weren't like stuff, but since I've joined, I've been very happy. I just love it. I'm made up.